All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over a series of video presentations for the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Web Development 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class. I'm going through this series of getting started with ASP.NET MVC5. So far, we've gone through the getting started. We added in Hello World controller, we added a Hello World view, and now we're going into adding a model. All right, so as the author says here, in this section you'll add some classes for managing movies in a database. They will become the model part of our ASP.NET MVC app. So far we've done the V for view, which we did in the last lesson, and the C for controller, which we did in lesson 2. As it says, we will use a .NET Framework access technology known as EF, or Entity Framework. Now, when we do this, we can do code first, all right, which allows you to write your code and then your database, or you can do the database first, all right? Code first, as it says here, allows you to create objects by writing classes. They're known as POCO classes. POCO being an acronym for plain old CLR. CLR is Common Language Runtime. It's basically, I'm putting it real simply here, kind of the method that things go through in Microsoft so that your source code gets put into machine language code. All right, and again, I'm being very, very simplistic there, okay? All right. You can then have the database created on the fly from your classes, which enables a clean and rapid development workflow. If you're required to create the database first, you can still follow this tutorial and then follow Tom Fizmakin's ASP scaffolding, which covers the database first approach. We're going to do that one next. So, taking it from the top, in the Solution Explorer, let's stop our run, make sure we don't have it running at all here. Stop that run right here. All right, let's go back right there and go back into our code. And as the author says, in the Solution Explorer, right-click the Models folder. Let's close our controllers and let's close our views for right now. Just clean this up a little bit. And the app start. Now it's a little easier to see what's going on. Now in models right now we've got an account view model, an identity model, and a manage view model. Well, we don't want any of those. We instead want to right mouse click on the folder, choose add, and we want to select class, which is at the very bottom. We could also choose new item and choose class off of there. All right. The name of this class is supposed to be movie. We want to keep the .cs, but get rid of class 1 and have this say movie.cs. And click add. Now remember, we're putting code in here. All right, we are putting code in here. All right, so into our public class movie, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to go and add 5 properties. Okay? Now, the properties are shown right here, but I want to show you what they consider to be a shortcut. You may or may not agree. We want to put in these 5 lines of code. These are going to represent fields in a table. There'll be an ID field, a title field, a release date field, a genre field, and a price field. All right, so I could just copy these to the clipboard, come back to my code, and paste them in. But you won't always have that code available. So I'm going to try, I think this was how we did it. Public int tab. No, that didn't work. Okay. What was it then? Was it int tab? No. All right. I'm going to show you this because I don't remember. You can see I don't use it. but how to add properties in ASP.NET using snippets. So code snippet, I think it's in here, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh, there is a way to do it, and of course I'm not finding it right now. Maybe that's it. Prop tab. Let's try that. Type in the word prop, hit tab twice. Tab. There you go. So now I can come in here and I can change this to ID. Hit enter again. Prop tab. The next one will be a string, and it will be the title. And again, you might say, why aren't you just copying it? Because you won't always have that code to copy. Prop tab. This will be a date time. And this is called release date. Prop tab. This will be a string. String. And it's genre. And finally another prop tab, and this will be a decimal, and it will be the price field. So what we just did was we added 5 properties to our movie class. These properties will be used as database fields. Each one will correspond to a row within a database table. The table will be named movies. All right. Now we want to add something, and we're going to get an error for what I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to put in here. Let's see. We've got public class movie. Same file, add. Okay, I'm going to get an error after I do this. Please listen. All right, I'm going to say here public class movie DB context colon DB context. Hit enter. It doesn't know what we're trying to do here. And it's giving us that error. And I want to put in here public DB set movie movies. Get set. Now, notice we've got some errors. It doesn't understand some of this stuff. If I take my mouse and put it here, it says the namespace could not be found. If I click under show potential fixes, it says, do you want to add using system.data.entity, which is not in there right now. Notice it's not there. So I'm going to do that again, and I am going to tell it to add it. There it added it, and it put it in alphabetical order. And notice I have no errors now. Now this class that we just added right here, let's go back to our handout. This class that we just added right here. This. Notice what it says. The movie DB context class represents the entity framework movie database context. That will handle fetching, storing, and updating our database. Notice again, this means that this inherits from movie DB context inherits from DB context. That's a base class that's part of the entity framework. Now you saw that in order to use this, we had to come into our code and add using system.data.entity. We had to add that. I showed you a way to add it. We could have just manually keyed it in like this also. All right, but I showed you the way they showed you here. So as the author says, because this is a very short lesson, we finally added a model, the M, in the MVC section. In the next section, we'll talk about the database string. The last thing to mention in here is you'll notice some of these things in here are gray, which means they're not being used. So I can again click over here and say remove unnecessary usings. And notice it got rid of those. No errors because we're not using them. All right, that's the end of lesson 4. Let's do a, right there, I did a save all. Let's go back to the handout. And we have now done the first 4 lessons, getting started, adding a controller, adding a view, and adding a model. So we have now done work for all 3 parts of the model view controller. In the next lesson, we'll come in and we'll create a connection string, and we will work with SQL Server Local DB. This next section is only 4 pages long, so it'll probably only take 5 or 10 minutes or so. All right? And when we get done with that, then we'll talk about how to access the model's data actually from a controller. All right? So I will be back with lesson 5 of 11 right here in just a couple minutes.